First story, the birthday. This happened when I was turning 15. My friends and I decided to go to a cemetery. We thought it would be really cool to celebrate a birthday there. What possessed us at that moment is still a mystery. We packed everything we needed: food, flashlights, booze, and sleeping bags. Yes, we planned to spend the night right there. Around 11 we set out. The walk would take about an hour, so we'd arrive, get everything ready, and at midnight, my birthday. Nothing unusual happened on the way, and we didn't really feel scared. But the moment we stepped onto the cemetery grounds, a chill ran through me, and I had the sense someone was watching us. Maybe it was only me, but I didn't say anything. Didn't want them to think I was a coward. After a few meters, we found a spot to stop. A small clearing on a rise, the nearest graves about 10 meters away. We spread out our things and, seeing the time, started celebrating. There were 7 of us, 3 girls and 4 guys. We drank, laughed, ate, and stopped paying attention to the sounds or to the fact that we were in a cemetery. They stopped paying attention. I was still frightened. It took a lot for me to get tipsy, and they were already merry. I kept hearing lowing and growling noises, and sometimes voices, children's, then adults. I told my friends, but they blamed my imagination. I thought they were right and tried to calm down. By 3 a.m., all the food and drink were gone, much faster than expected, so we decided to sleep. We unrolled our bags and lay down. To my surprise, I fell asleep quickly. I dreamed strange dreams. I was walking through the same cemetery, seeing people weeping. As I got closer, the sound vanished. There was only silence. When I reached them, they screamed and lunged at me, threatening to kill us if we didn't leave. I jumped back, felt no fear, ignored their words, and kept going. Ahead, near the fence, stood a beautiful girl. White hair, black eyes, a light floating gait. I suddenly felt wonderful and headed straight for her, not thinking of consequences. When she saw me, she began to dance, an incredibly beautiful dance. I watched, unable to look away. She paused a moment, then spun again, but now with a partner. She danced that dance with 5 people. At the end of each dance, the partner simply vanished. After the 5th person disappeared, she sat on the ground. I started toward her, but she evaporated, then reappeared a second later on the other side, staring at me fiercely. I saw she was beckoning my girlfriend, one of our group. My friend took the girl's hand and instantly disappeared. The dancing girl smiled, and she too dissolved. I woke up drenched in sweat and immediately checked my girlfriend. Thank God she was fine. As I tried to go back to sleep, I felt an overwhelming urge to walk the cemetery. It was already getting light. I grabbed a knife, I don't know why, and started looking at the graves, studying the faces on the photos, the dates of death, when I came upon the girl from my dream. Crying, I ran back to our camp. I looked at that same friend, and her body was mutilated, a cross driven through it. In the distance, near the fence, stood the girl from my dream, watching. My insides clenched, my legs turned to jelly, tears streamed down my face. Hysterical, I woke the others. Seeing the scene, they packed everything and we all ran out of the cemetery. We reached a friend's house and tried to recover from the shock, but it was useless. We had lost our friend because of our stupidity. Questioning the others, asking how they hadn't heard anything, all 5 gave the same answer. They'd had a dream in which they danced with a beautiful girl. White hair, mesmerizing black eyes, an irresistible gait, and strange fluid movements. Second story. Memory. My uncle died, and for a long time I couldn't visit his grave because of my heavy workload. I felt ashamed, and after work one day I begged my friend to drive me to the cemetery. On the way, we bought flowers and arrived around 1 in the morning. Armed with flashlights, we set off to find my uncle's grave. The cemetery was huge, and in the dark I couldn't get my bearings. We wandered for another hour. My friend's nerves were fraying. She kept thinking she saw things, yanked at my sleeve, cursed at me, and finally forced me to turn back. On the way out, I tripped over a grave's iron fence and banged my elbow hard. I looked around and realized there were small fences all around us. This part of the cemetery was for children. Beautiful angel-shaped headstones stood nearby, but the grave I had tripped on had only a plain wooden cross. I shone my flashlight, but the nameplate was in such bad shape I couldn't make anything out. The grave had been neglected. No artificial flowers even. So I decided to leave the flowers meant for my uncle there. Better than letting them go to waste, and I wouldn't be taking them home. 3 days passed after that. I had a good day at work, came home, did my chores, and went to bed. I was woken by a terrible, hysterical crying. I jumped up and listened, but it was quiet. I chalked it up to fatigue, but to my surprise, it continued the whole week. I decided to take a sleeping pill. I fell asleep soundly and had a dream, as if I woke again to the crying and heard it coming from the kitchen. I went in and saw a boy of about 3. He was sitting with his arms around his knees, sobbing. I asked, "What happened?" He lifted his wet eyes to me and said, "I'm cold." I picked him up, carried him to my bed, tucked him under the blanket and asked, "Is that warm now?" He didn't answer. He just fell asleep. The next night I dreamed again, and the boy was there. That time he was hungry. I fed him and we went back to sleep. Another time we played, then went for a walk, and we always went to sleep after. I didn't tell anyone, because I liked these dreams. Then one night in the dream we were lying down again, and he stroked my elbow and asked, "Mommy, did I hurt you too much that time?" I woke up, and it hit me. All month, the boy from the grave where I had left the flowers had been coming to me. The next day I told my friend. Surprisingly, she believed me. We went to that grave and for some reason found it very quickly. Same cross, the same illegible nameplate. On the way back, we asked the guard about the grave. He told us a boy was buried there. His mother had thrown him out onto the street, and he died of hunger and cold. His grandmother buried him, and then she died too. I agonized over what to do. The answer came to me in a dream. We were lying down again, and he said they bullied him there because he didn't have an angel and his clothes were ugly. The next day, I ordered a little angel-shaped headstone. It was very expensive, but somehow I didn't begrudge the money. I bought a beautiful white outfit. When the headstone was ready, we set it up and arranged with the guard to dig a bit so we could place the outfit and a small teddy bear in the grave. That night he came to me again, wearing the outfit and holding the bear. We played and went to bed, but he didn't lie down. He sat beside me and said, "Mommy, thank you for the gift. Today I turned 4. I fell asleep, and he didn't come again for a while. A year passed and I decided to visit his grave. I tidied up, left a toy and a card that said happy birthday. That night he came to me and we played. He tucked me in and said thank you. It's been 3 years now, and every birthday he comes to me. Today he turns 7 and I'm waiting for him. I always visit his grave, leave flowers and clean up. Who else will take care of him besides Mommy?" Third story, the elevator. Some time ago I was renting an apartment in a high-rise. I liked partying late and almost never came home early. I wasn't particularly afraid of the local thugs. I was fit and solid, so nobody ever messed with me. But one night, coming home late, I saw a crowd gathered by the entrance. I went over and asked what was going on. It turned out an older man felt unwell. They'd found him on the landing nearly unconscious. Apparently something was wrong with his heart. After a while, I noticed a light constantly burning in the elevator shaft. It went on for several days. I figured they were doing repairs. Besides, you could sometimes hear knocking down there. A couple of days later, the light in the shaft went out. Well, it went out. I was away for a week, and when I came back, the old woman from the stairwell told me a story. A pretty young girl lived in our building. I'd been intending to make a move on her for a while, even tried a little. The old woman told me they found the girl in the morning on the stairs, not far from the elevator. They say she'd lain there all night, her hair completely white. They took her to the hospital. She won't talk to anyone and just stares at one spot. I was upset. It was hard to understand what had happened. One night around 1 a.m., I noticed the elevator shaft light was on again. What kind of repairs happen at that hour? Then again, our elevator guys are real slackers. They could have forgotten something. I got to my floor, but the moment the lift stopped, all the lights went out, everywhere. In the elevator, in the shaft, and in the stairwell, I felt uneasy. Silence and darkness descended. Then I clearly heard something scraping along the bottom of the elevator. Quiet, but distinct. I almost shit myself right there. Somehow I forced the doors open and got out. Immediately, the light in the elevator came on and childlike laughter came from the shaft. That was too much for me. The elevator suddenly jolted and shook, as if something had shoved it from below. A tiny child's hand appeared in the gap. I pressed myself against the wall. The elevator started up, and as the gap opened wider, I could see him more clearly. The face of a boy about 7. He looked at me and smiled faintly. His head was about twice normal size, and then, when it turned, I realized half his head was missing. Just a bloody mess. They found me on a bench in the yard. I was completely white-haired and totally unhinged. I spent some time in the hospital. Later, the locals told me that 2 boys had been riding in the elevator shaft. One managed to climb out, but the other was crushed on the top floor.